What's up, everybody? This is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and you are watching Ranger Wrap Up. Peace out. What's up, everybody?
Yes, welcome to the eighth one of the world. The best, the most entertaining Power Ranger live stream on YouTube. It is back, we are back, it is Saturday, and you could be anywhere else in the world, but you're here with us.
And we appreciate it.
This one's brought to you by Zoa Energy.
No, it is not brought to you by
It's
Zoa.
not brought to you by Zoa.
No, not yet. Not yet.
We are the Ranger Wrap Up. We are here live from our beautiful studio here in Los Angeles, California. We are also joined by Heirloom across the pond. How are you, Heirloom?
I am doing fine, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
We are doing excellent, turning up with energy drinks all around.
I know.
Having a lot of fun here. We were just talking about deep diving in Power Rangers even before we started.
Yeah.
Then we told ourselves, let's take a break from talking about Power Rangers for a second. Just talk about each other.
On a Power Ranger live stream.
But before we, there it is. There's the camera. Before we get into everything, I want to know where everybody's streaming us from. Thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday. I'm speaking very quickly. Robert Amaya, our buddy, Mikey Nerd Talk is joining us. Moriba Ford, one of our key writers, senior writers at the Illuminerdi. He's doing a great
Senior?
job. He is a senior writer over there at the
That's
Illuminerdi.
right, that's right.
He's also writing great Power Ranger content. And to tell you the truth, he did a hell of a day covering the Disney Plus
Disney
Day.
Plus Day, man. That day was a lot to cover. That was a lot to do.
That scared me there, Jesse.
I know, I'm sorry. There's a bunch of stuff. We're working with a new computer, and there's stuff that wasn't installed yet, but we'll work it out.
Whoa.
We'll work it out.
You're just kind of sweeping over some stuff.
What's that?
You're like, oh, new computer. Have you not mentioned
No, don't even mention it. Don't even mention it. So, yeah, here's the deal. I am Joe with the Illuminerdi. This week I am joined by Jezer Zeus. How you doing,
Jezer
buddy?
Zeus, I'm doing well.
And who are you? Tell him, Dan.
I am Daniel, a.k.a. Battlestar Galactica, a.k.a. Kurt Hustle, because I don't stop. And besides me, I mean, we did say hi to Heirloom already, but...
Heirloom, how you doing, buddy? So we asked you how you were doing. Tell me what's been going on with you lately, buddy.
Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. I can hear myself.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Random Ranger stuff. That's right. I've been writing some Hasbro stuff. Some videos coming up for Hasbro. Well, actually, me talking about Hasbro, not for them. But yeah, some really random things and finding random Ranger stuff out in the wild.
Well, today we're going to be talking about Power Rangers 2, just like we do every Saturday. But before we get into that, I want to thank you guys again for joining us. Mikey's coming to us from Texas. We got, is that Damon Richardson from Philly? Jared Hodges, Knoxville, Tennessee in the house. Robert Amaya from the good Lone Star State of Texas. We also got Elk Grove, California in there. Marcelino, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, let's get into this. Let's talk some Power Rangers.
Okay.
Last week, Josh was running the show, and his computer exploded, so that's why we had a lot of technical difficulties. And I was watching the show back, because that's what I do, is I watch all of our content back, legitimately watching the show back. And I got to the moment where we were trying to play the Serena Vincent clip. And when I did that, you can literally see the look on my face of like, God damn it, get it together. Like, this is not working out. Little did we know later on in the course of that Saturday, Josh's computer was making the funkiest noises. And then he legitimately bought a whole new computer, like midway through the meeting.
Just like that.
Before, I left the crowd here with Blue Huevos, why don't we cut to the clip of Serena Vincent talking about Power Rangers?
Hold on 1 second.
This is called the cursed
This
clip.
is the tease. This is the
playing
tease.
this
No,
goddamn
I know.
clip
I know.
4 times.
I know what it
Maybe
is.
it's just not meant to be.
No, I know what it is. It's because I did this. All right, we're just trying to tease you, trying to give you a little bit of blue balls. But here we're gonna fix that for you. We're gonna fix your blue balls.
I am with Serena Vincent at the Saturn Awards. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So first of all, you got a film coming out called The Next Big Hit. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
The next big hit. It's still in the early stages. They're still in pre-production. It's a musical comedy, and I can sing and I can dance, and I've never done a musical comedy, so it's one of those things that I'm super excited about. But I'm not sure when it's happening.
Now, you're a legend when it comes to the world of Power Rangers and sci-fi, but I want to talk about Power Rangers specifically because now that it's under the Hasbro banner, there's a lot of focus on it, like the Lightning Collection figures. Are you excited to be getting your Lightning Collection figure at any point?
I want my Lightning Collection figure. How do we make that happen?
How do we make that happen?
I don't know. I need to get on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, the Power Ranger fans are amazing. I love that. I feel honored to be a part of the Power Ranger franchise, with my first series many years ago in 1999, and the fact that we're still talking about it is really cool.
I know, it is really cool. Now, there's a rumor going around that you're possibly reuniting with former Power Ranger actors Jason David Frank, Jason Font for Legend of the White Dragon. Is there anything you can say about that?
Wait.
You said
This one's not clear yet.
no. You've said Saturday.
No, not for the full thing, but it's fine. Just
Oh, dang it!
God.
Dang it!
oh,
You said Saturday.
Yes.
Whoa! I said Saturday, but he did say he cut that part out. And I was
No,
just like,
but-
remember that?
All right, miscommunication, but you guys got.
You said you cut that part out.
I did cut it out, but you said Saturday we can run
We
the.
can run the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant the original clip, but
Yeah.
it's fine. I mean, it doesn't.
That's
really
Joe.
matter.
That's on Joe. Sorry, JDF. That's on Joe.
It doesn't matter.
Well, that's interesting. So they
Wait,
said.
fast forward it a little bit. Can you fast forward it?
No, I can't. It's not in here. She said she was gonna be back for that freaking terrible legendary war.
Yeah.
She did. Well, let me ask you this: the Legendary War. Do you think that if they redid that and did it, do you think there's anything they can do to redeem that?
No. You have to redo the whole show.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to redo the whole
Yep.
show.
Agreed.
Like the concept is fucking perfect. Like honestly,
yeah.
if they omitted doing that season and then did it for the 30th, it would have been fucking perfect. And then have everybody like involved in the show, all the OGs involved, not OG 6, but like all the past Rangers involved in some capacity throughout the show. It would have been fucking perfect. It would have been like the way that they did it with the Super Sentai.
Wait, can I ask you an honest question?
Yeah, go.
So, look, we're here doing a Power Ranger show, obviously. But honestly, Jezer,
What?
When's the last time you actually sat down and watched Power Rangers? Like, I'm going to watch it to enjoy it. I will say this: there was a time during the pandemic when we had the big team up,
Yep.
right? I was really excited. I actually, that was a big experience for us. But like, what's the last time you actually sat down and were like, I want to sit down?
I have to think about that because we've been doing this
years.
for years. And the amount of me watching the episodes I've always gone into it in the mindset that I'm doing this for work,
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what?
I get you.
It's funny that you say that. I'm going to switch gears for a second. I think about that now with Marvel.
Do you?
Yep.
Yeah, so on Disney Plus Day, in all honesty, I'm really excited about one Marvel project.
Spider-Man?
No. X-Men the Animated Series.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is
Why
it.
Why did that even
Why did that? Yeah, why did you even have to?
Why did I even question what
But
it was?
in all honesty, look, and this is nothing against Marvel, and I don't know if it's burnout or what it may be, but for me, as we've went and progressed from WandaVision to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier to Loki to What If.
I was bored with What If.
From Loki to What If, every single episode to me
Felt like work.
Felt like work.
That's
I
what-
had to watch it in order
That's
to...
what If felt like me. I didn't enjoy What If. Only because I felt like the stakes weren't there. Like I wasn't connected to it.
Now, I know that everyone might be thinking, why are you guys talking about Marvel on Power Ranger show? Well, this is exactly why. So when you were talking about Power Rangers, and now that you say it kind of feels like work, when was the last time you were really excited?
To watch Power Rangers?
To watch Power Rangers, to read Power Rangers, to get something of Power Ranger. Like, I mean, Lightning Collection aside, what is something that you're like, I need this?
Shit.
Or I want to see this, or whatever it may be.
Probably the movie. I know probably doesn't count. I wanted to see
27.
the movie,
That absolutely would count.
Yeah.
Probably the lead up in Beast Morphers for ASJ to see how they did it. But I was burnt out when they did Ninja Steel and how they did Dimensions in Danger. I felt like it was kind of like half-assed.
I think Dimensions in Danger is better than
The JDF one?
I mean, the ASJ one.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It makes sense. When was the last time I enjoyed watching a whole show? Honestly, Dino Thunder.
Wow, that's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Heirloom, let me ask you a question. So, Power Rangers, everybody always seems to give Megaforce a bad rap, and regardless of if it deserves it or not. I mean, granted, it's not the best of seasons, but do you think there are any redeeming qualities to that season upon like going back and revisiting that Megaforce season? And do you think that Power Rangers has a problem, kind of like letting fans celebrate these big anniversary seasons like we're coming upon in the 30th anniversary?
I reckon that if you take the element of Gokaiger out of Super Megaforce, it's an enjoyable series. It's still got some really bad writing and some bad decisions, but that was down to the fact that they couldn't be bothered with it, or they didn't know how to write pirates, and I still think it could have been the best Power Ranger series. It has some really good qualities, mainly Ciara Hanna, but lots of the decent. It's got lots of different, like, it's a good series. But I think people just wanted it to be just like Gokaiger, so they were like, oh, it's not the same and blah blah blah. But they really, really dropped the ball. And what was the second thing you asked?
Second thing I asked, I don't really even remember, so we'll just go and say that you answered it. So.
All right.
Go ahead. No, Daniel, let me ask you though, because I asked about the 30th anniversary. Do you think the Power Rangers kind of lets their fans down with those anniversaries?
Yes, because there's not a lot of information. Hasbro treats it like Marvel, like you're not meant to know any sort of question, and even if you reach out and ask, they just slap you down. If they reached out to a lot of influencers, like all of us in the community, and went, hey, we've got some really exciting stuff for you. Like, do you guys want to talk about it? Then I think you'd build up more hype than just, sorry, can't answer that. Sorry, can't say anything. Sorry, can't say this whatsoever. So they just need to talk more to people, and that's how you would build it up, because we'd all be like, holy crap, yes, let's talk about this.
All right.
I agree. I think there needs to be some level of transparency with like their quote unquote plants, which you have them built in already. That's exactly what influencers are. Every fan that's interested in Power Rangers that has a channel, that has a following, there you go. Those are your plants. Work with them.
I don't know if you guys
pretty much do what BBC does with Doctor Who fans.
Yeah.
I mean, they hit up these people that have like huge followings, blah blah, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna release this, blah blah blah."
Utilize
blah, blah,
it.
Blah. Yeah, I mean, work with it that way. Celebrate it.
Do you guys watch TikTok usually? There's this guy on there that he does like a lot of Marvel news and Spider-Man No Way Home news.
Is this the ones that you sent us in our group chat?
Yeah, the Soups guy.
Yeah.
I went to watch Eternals. That dude was on screen. He has his own segment with AMC. Like he has his own segment from TikTok to that. I was like, what the hell?
I mean, look, it's not unheard of. That's the same thing. I was just watching a documentary on HBO about late night.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. And now they're finding these social media stars. I mean, look, it's not a direct one-on-one. It doesn't mean you're going to get famous based on that.
Yeah.
But it's also not impossible either.
Yeah, Linda Singh.
Linda Singh, exactly. Let's go to the chat. Jezzer, what are people saying in the chat?
Okay, they are saying the only way to redo the Legendary War is for Boom Studios to do their own take. That is,
or an animated version of it.
Or an animated. I'm all for animated. I know everybody here is. Marcelino Vasquez says, I hate Super Mega Force, but I want the characters to come back to receive better writing. Yes, you know what? Honestly, we've said this before. The cast, like the funniest people, the most interesting people out there, but they were just mishandled. Well,
that's the thing. It's like, hey, you know what? You also have to take into consideration how it's written and how it's directed.
Yeah.
But also, when it comes to how it's directed, it kind of still goes back to how it's written. When you go back to how it's written, it's like they're the formula for how you're supposed to write it. So it's just handcuffs on handcuffs on handcuffs. So who do you blame?
I don't know. Mikey Nerd Talk says, love the new studio. Thank you very much. Mariba, he says, Super Megaforce had some dope Megaforce fight scenes. I'll give them that much. Oh, and Sierra Hannah, of course. Sierra Hannah is like, she's the best, honestly.
Let's call her. Let's hang up on
Robert Amaya says, if they would bring back the past Rangers, they need better development and, of course, story arc. More than 5 episodes. Who is it? This is Torian Eason. That's a new name. Or maybe you guys have seen him. I didn't watch Super Megaforce for the story. I watched for the Gokaiger scenes.
This is a great point, and this actually brings me up to my the next thing I wanted to talk about. How much of Power Rangers do you watch based on the motifs and the suits? Because I've noticed something about the fans. Not all fans, because it's not a direct one-on-one all fans, but there's a lot of fans out there that specifically, and nothing against it, because I understand like certain aesthetics that people like, and that's super cool. If you're into Power Rangers specifically for that, awesome. But do you sometimes gravitate towards a season depending, and this is for most of you guys in the chat actually, do you guys gravitate towards a season based on the motif, or is it some other cause or dynamic that brings you to the show?
I've learned that the suits don't freaking matter for story. Honestly, I love the look of the Operation Overdrive suits. They just look cool to me. They're kind of like tactical and all that.
Yeah.
But the show, I've tried watching a few episodes. It's tough.
Well, look,
it's tough.
I feel that we talked about, you weren't here last week, but we talked about the different eras of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
That happened to be one of the weaker seasons
of Disney.
Of a really strong era.
Disney was top tier as far as their run went. Stop talking. One of the my favorite seasons is Lost Galaxy. I'm not really a big fan of the suits, the zigzags and all that. I'm not really
the Charlie Brown aesthetic.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it. I love Magna Defender. He's pretty dope as character, but yeah, I'm not a fan of the suits, but I love this. I love the series.
I got something to show you guys. Well, keep talking.
Okay.
No, definitely a great series. I love the Lost in Space.
Power Rangers in Space?
Power Rangers in Space.
I don't know if this is out there yet.
In translation for that. Yes. Please.
Oh yeah, did a video on it. White Phantom Ranger.
Do you know who it is?
It is Joe Deckelmeyer.
I know the origin of that character.
Yeah. So that's cool. I honestly don't correlate how good of a season is based on the suits. Yeah. If by chance they do Zoojer, I don't like the suits. I like the helmets. I just don't like the suits,
Well, for me, it's different because space. I wasn't crazy about the helmets, but actually, truth of the matter is, I love their civilian stuff. Those jackets and all that, super dope.
Yep.
Well, there is
the outfits, the costumes when they're morphed. I was like, leaves a lot to be
desired. We got a metal Ryan Gamer says, I see a Zoa drink, Joe. You absolutely do. This is actually really good. There's a question that I want to address directly here. It says, by the way, Robert Amaya says, by the way, there's been a tweet about a possible Zooja adaptation being filmed in Canada in Simon Bennett.
Whoa.
And it was news to him. Can you clarify that? Look, first of all, I am not one to clarify anything because I'm not a Power Ranger spokesperson. Believe me, Hasbro will tell you that. Second of all, we do have the Super Chat feature. Please use it. It helps support the show. And yes, we will talk about this right now. So there's a great tweet that came out, or a great tweet. I don't know why I always say that, but there's a tweet that came out by a good friend of ours.
Jin?
Yeah, Jin on Twitter. He said some of this information. And truth be told, some of this information, it sounds pretty legitimate for one reason, is that it's almost the same thing as that you would see normally, with the exception of it from going from Canada to New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's break it down. And mind you, this dude's a really cool dude. I follow him on Twitter. Mm-hmm. He's awesome. But let's follow his tweet here for a second. It says this will be one season, 44 episodes. If I was to break that down and say, hey, Netflix is doing 44 episodes in one season, I would say they'd probably break that more so into 2 seasons, probably being that 22 episodes. That would be my guess, but that would still essentially be the same thing. So I'm going to take, that, by the way, I'm not trying to discredit this post. I'm just trying to go through it and talk it out with everybody.
Yeah.
And make you guys, not make you, I want you guys to understand a little bit more.
I want you to understand.
So, will be filmed in New Zealand and Canada. Well, it was New Zealand, Canada, not New Zealand. Now, what
happened?
Oh no, Heirloom's gone.
Keep going.
Let me come back to this point just for a second, because I do want to touch on this just for a second. At least I want to come back to it in just a second. The Netflix original, the budget will stay the same as Dino Fury and be handled by Hasbro, not Netflix. That is probably very accurate.
Sorry.
Hey,
Can people hear that? Or is it just us?
They can
making
hear.
phone calls.
You can answer as
Ring,
fast
ring.
as you can, man.
Making phone calls. Ring, ring. Making phone calls.
There he is. All right, cool.
I'm
Continue.
here.
All right, there we are. So, the Netflix original budget will stay the same, and Dino Fury be handled by Hasbro, not Netflix. All right. I think that one probably would be accurate too.
Exactly.
Mainly for a lot of people don't realize this, but the pandemic probably played a huge part of this.
But I'm sorry.
I'm also not confirming this, by the way, but I will say that this is probably close. A lot of this is probably closer to the truth, though.
Going back to the Canada, not.
Well, not going to go back to that because we're not going to talk about that yet because I'm not done going through this yet. Has nothing to do with the Entwistle reboot. This is probably exactly true for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
I will say this. I know that Hasbro doesn't want to field any questions about the Jonathan Entwistle stuff. Truth be told, I know that Hasbro doesn't want to field any questions about the future Power Rangers just in general. So, that's one of those touchy subjects because I think that with the Entwistle stuff, like I said before, I don't think it will see the light of day. And if it does,
Clip. What is that?
if it does see the light of day,
What's the time on
if
that?
it does see the light of day, it won't be for a good amount of time.
Yeah. So you're saying the reboot won't see the light of day for a while?
Yeah, I say at the earliest.
2024.
Yeah, 2024.
2024.
Because
There
you
you go.
have to
Clip
assume,
that.
You have to assume right now we're still in the development phase, which is interesting because there's been stories that we've done this already. There's been stories that we've reported on that got announced after the Entwistle thing that are already in production now. So
Oh yeah.
that Dungeons and Dragons is a really good example of that. That is something we reported on after the Entwistle thing, and that's something that's in production now.
That's right.
That's something that's coming out next year. Power Rangers still is going through.
Let me ask you guys this.
Wait, pull up that tweet. Then. I'm not done.
All right. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Ask me what.
What do you call? Would you rather have them to push out mediocre content just for it to be there, or have them take a break and then figure out what they want to do?
Well, I'll get into that in just a second. So this tweet also says that that Simon Bennett is sticking around. Now, if this is in New Zealand, I will almost guarantee you Simon Bennett's going to stick around.
Why not?
I would say though, if it moves to Canada, I don't know about that because that you got to think you're going to uproot and move. I mean, it's not unheard of though because Chip Lynn also would spend most of his shooting seasons out there for Power Rangers anyway.
Right.
But I don't really see that happening. I just don't, especially with the way the climate is. I don't see it moving to Canada. I do think that there will be another New Zealand season. And I think if there is another New Zealand season, I think it's going to be cast fully in New Zealand and probably the surrounding areas. I don't think that they're going to want to have to spend the time quarantining the cast for 2 weeks. And if somebody drops out, then they have this problem
they got some good stock over in New Zealand. So, I mean.
Yeah.
They do. They do. So that is just my take on it. Now, you did have a question. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, from what I'm seeing here, the Canada portion.
Oh, Simon Bennett did respond. He says this is all news to him.
Me, exactly. Because I was just like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Canada and Entwistle. That makes sense. I can see how they're like, okay, well, hey, we're going to do Canada, blah, 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 yada, 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 and here goes Entwistle. So it's like, we're not going to have to uproot Simon Bennett because here goes Canada and Entwistle. But then at the end, when they're like, oh, yeah, but Simon will still be working on it, I was like, wait,
well, look,
he's not going to move
hey, man,
from
at the end of the day, this really comes down to one out of two things. Because I do think that if that tweet was accurate, maybe not all of it's accurate, but Simon Bennett for sure knows about some of it. If not, and this is 100% honesty, if Simon Bennett doesn't know what's going on for next season at this point, then there's a bigger problem with the franchise.
But what did he say, though?
Exactly. He just
no, obviously not, because this is one of those things too, and
he's doing the Tom Holland thing. He's like, I don't know.
But I think this is one of those things that people have talked about where he said in the past that oh, this wasn't going to happen, and it did happen. So look, it's Power Rangers spin control. In all honesty, I just don't. It baffles me. I just don't.
Why does Power Rangers have spin control?
But this is the thing. Why would you have spin control for a show that's marketed for kids? What does it matter if spoilers?
Why would you have spin control for a show that's not it's not performing? It's not fucking Marvel.
My thing is, I wonder, do they have spin control for My Little Pony? Do they have spin control for Transformers?
Hey, there's a new My Little
G.I.
Pony
Joe.
movie coming out.
But well, is there spin control for it? Can we go
Well,
ahead and put something
well,
else
I
in
do.
with
Well,
that?
yes, for Transformers, yeah, because it's a larger franchise.
Transformers,
Even G.I. Joe, they do. Because like I said before, back when we were at Hashtag Show, we dropped the Snake Eyes, all the character breakdowns for it. I immediately got an email from Hasbro asking to take those down.
Okay, now once again, because remember they have viable film franchises that are happening. My Little Pony is coming back to doing its film franchise stuff. But do you think they have spin control for My Little Pony? I just wonder.
If it depends on look, I'm not into the My Little Pony climate of news breaking out, so I don't know.
Right. Bronies, if you guys
any
are
brony
watching,
would be able to help you with that.
Please let me know. I want to know.
But like I said, I don't know about this N-Twistle reboot, if it's happening or not. But look, I would say that Zoo Ogre's probably going to happen. Like all signs point to it happening because just the way that the pandemic affected everything, the way that Snake Eyes affected everything. This is almost like the cheap fix of being like, you know what, we can put something on the air. We already know how to do this. Let's just punch it out.
I'd rather they didn't, though. But
Wait, let's talk about that,
goes to
Jesser.
your
Let's go
question.
back to this. You asked, would you want them to shelve the brand essentially, or do you want them to continue to do the show? You want them to shelve the brand.
shelve the brand.
I disagree.
Lean into the toys, lean into the comics.
Look, we're on the precipice of the 30th anniversary, and you're saying put everything on hold.
I would say that they should have put something into like a Netflix special or like a documentary or something. Lean towards something like that to you're trying to honor what started the brand, what started the success of the show. Giving us another given Dino Fury is somewhat entertaining. It's not groundbreaking or it's not.
I mean, the whole Izzy stuff is
Yeah, but I'm saying like the show, like the format there hasn't changed. Nothing has changed in years, and it's not like why you guys are using a lot of money for just that.
So, and I hate that I keep bringing it up, but it's like Doctor Who took a 20-year hiatus almost, like 85 almost to...
Hell, Transformers has done it multiple times.
Very true. And so there are examples where it's like, okay, hey, a franchise can still continue to move on. Just put it in different platforms for that time.
Yeah.
But the Dino Fury toys are still selling well. Why would you take those off the market? Honestly.
No.
Like, why would you take those off the market? Why would you handicap yourself from not trying to sell more things?
Finish your 30th. Then from that time on, give us yearly specials and continue with the comics, and that's about it. Give it that time to kind of rest and really recoup. Figure out what you really want to do. Know what your plan is.
I think that if you put on Zoo Ogre, that is their way of being like, all right, we're going to either try to make an epic season or this is a placeholder to really figure out what we need to be doing. It's one out of two things. I don't think...
Why spend the money for the placeholder?
Because they're going to lose money on the toy end. Because they're not going to be selling new toys. Besides the Lightning Collection stuff that you're already familiar with.
Which is exactly why they were created. He's right. But then again, Transformers were created.
But then also, you got to think about the deal. Like, if they have if there's a deal on Netflix where they're going to have, there has to be money associated with it. They're not just going to be like, you know what, let's make a show and just put it on Netflix. And if it doesn't work out, hey, everybody goes their own. It's not happening that way. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to assume that there has to be some type of money transaction and some type of metrics that you have to meet. So with if that's going to be the case, then you know that there has to be something there. They at least have to put out something.
Yeah, very true, and that's what I'm saying. Do something where you give me a
Mark, what's your take on all this?
I reckon if you did the Doctor Who thing, I reckon that you could have one big episode and then say it's coming back next year, because they did that with the Jodie Whittaker thing, where they're like, yeah, we're just gonna have Christmas episode and then we'll take a year off to film everything. But I also kind of think that if you take Power Rangers off the air now, I don't think people would remember it. I think they'd be like, oh, it's gone. Oh, okay, cool, whatever. So I think that they would lose stuff, but I think they'll just keep pumping out stuff for the Lightning Collection. I think that's the main focus from what I've seen. Everything, like, there's very little Dino Fury toys. There's always just Lightning Collection upon Lightning Collection upon Lightning Collection. But I want them to continue, but I just want them to be more open and not hide it. If Simon doesn't know, then I think that's a very kind of bad situation.
This is a toy company that happens to make television shows and movies, not the other way around.
Yeah, very true. But I don't think that because Simon doesn't know it's a bad situation, because Simon doesn't know it could be actually a good situation. Because, like you said, it could be all work. It could be, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen, but I can't tell anyone. Or it could be where it's like, that's not what's going to happen. I mean, this is just inaccurate. I'm not shooting on you. I'm not telling you you're a horrible person, but I'm just saying that's not true. I don't know about it.
But then at that point, we have to go back and look at other things that Simon's denied that's come true or not.
Yeah, very true.
And then the evidence is right there.
And that's why I said, could it be all a work? Because Simon has been known to do that, where he's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. Next week, blah, blah, blah's announced, and he's the one that announced it. And you're like, wait, what? You just said, he's like, gotcha.
Look, at the end of the day, like I say this every single week, and at this point, I've been on this is the longest stretch of time I've ever done this show consecutively. This is, at least in a long time, 2 months straight.
Oh,
This is week 8.
Welcome, buddy. Hey,
Week 8 straight.
How long have we been? Oh,
Not straight. There's not.
I think I got.
Nobody's been.
I think I have the longest streak.
He's had the longest streak. He just had the longest streak.
In the modern era.
Yes.
Yeah, in the modern era.
But yes, I think that with Power Rangers, at the end of the day, I think we all want the brand to thrive and grow. But
We do.
How do you do that? And I think that that's the biggest strategy, because either you're doing it for these young kids growing up and you're going to do it exactly the same, and that's, it seems to be fine for a lot of people, and that's great, but that caps you at only making X amount of dollars. Like, there's a reason why Power Rangers isn't a $1 billion company. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a very specific reason why that is. And if you think that a company is going to acquire you just for it to be exactly the same, you're dead wrong. So there has to be a plan in place, or there was probably a plan in place that things changed. And obviously things change all the time. And I think that now they're trying to figure out how to turn this $1 million franchise into a $1 billion franchise. But what they need to do is expand its audience and storytelling for a wider range. Cast a wider net. Let's be honest. There's not a ton of 4-year-olds going out there and buying like SPD action figures. No. Mainly because a lot of 4-year-olds just don't happen to know what SPD is. Or any of these other seasons that aren't Mighty Morphin, to be honest with you, or one of the more modern seasons. Those figures are directed towards you and me and these two. Same thing with these G.I. Joe figures. Look at what Hasbro's doing. This Black Series, Star Wars Black Series, it's not directed to kids.
Oh, no, not
It's for the adult. That's for the consumer. That's for the collectible. That's for the people that are spending $20 on action figures. Each figure, or even upwards of those prices. So we have to understand that there's a business to this. Now, how do you expand on that business? Now, I think you could take a few steps here. One is the community outreach, like Erlen was talking about. Really, and right now you guys are doing it. We're here on a Saturday talking about Power Rangers, and we do this every single week. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to keep the name and the brand in people's minds and on people's lips. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think the one thing, look, there's something for everybody, but the one thing that is holding it back a little bit is the constraints of the Super Sentai series. Now, what I am saying, I'm not saying that they should get rid of the Super Sentai series at all, but what I am saying is that you can expand on doing more stuff. These Omega Rangers that are currently in the comics are super entertaining. Yeah. I would like to still continue on with the adaptations if they wanted to, have, for different platforms, whatever it may be, even in video games. But there's different types of stories you could tell with Power Rangers. And now they're really expanding the universe with their rich history, and they're really diving into their rich history. But, it's just all about moving in the right direction.
But as far as diving into their rich history, are you saying that's what's happening on the show, or that's what's happening?
No, I think that's what needs to happen. Okay. I think that you need to make a show. If your target market audience is kids, mm-hmm. you need to make a show that kids are going to watch.
Right.
And the way that Power Rangers is kind of formatted, the way that Power Rangers kind of works. Granted, I'm not saying all kids don't watch it, mm-hmm. but more kids are going to tend to watch animated things. Simple. Or if not, they're going to watch those YouTube videos. You know what I mean? That YouTube style of video. They're not going to be watching Power Rangers.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think, once again, we've all said before, go ahead and let the live stuff happen still. The way that's working, selling it for the kids. Give us our anthology animated series. This way, you're able to sell Lightning figures because you can highlight Lightning figure storylines.
I mean, in essence, that is the perfect situation, but honestly, they don't know what they don't know what they're gonna do.
I don't understand that. How long are we gonna have to wait for someone to actually figure out what's going on?
Okay, they got hit with the pandemic and all that. Other like studios like Marvel, like they had to do an audible too. They have. Yeah,
They did it.
well, but
Wow,
that's
I mean,
just
that's a
because there's
billion-dollar
yeah
company
there's
that's-
it's because there's money behind it. Like other shows, like honestly, there's a ton of Netflix shows that are just now coming back that have been on hiatus for like 2 or 3 years, and they really just didn't know how to do it. You know?
Well, but that's the thing. I mean, pay attention to the people that are doing it and say, okay, we can do that too. I mean, for Netflix, for example, they're sitting here with Big Mouth and they were like, well, pandemic isn't stopping us. They went out and put 2 seasons out already.
But you guys are looking
During
at
that whole
something
thing.
like you guys are talking about 2 different things. I feel that like Power Rangers, you're asking for something. You're saying that the pandemic affected it, blah blah blah. But you're asking for something that they've never done anyway, and that's change what they've been doing.
Yes.
The show's exactly the same. Like. Well, obviously with motifs and storylines, whatever, but it's the same exact thing that they've been doing for almost the last 30 years.
Yeah, and that's
none of that's really changed.
That's what I'm saying. Why have we waited so long for someone to show up and say, all right, look, why don't we do this? Can we do this? Can we make new avenues to make more revenue?
Can we? Here's a plan that I think that I don't understand why they haven't explored it yet. You know how well films like Squid Game is doing on Netflix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't they just uploaded the Super Sentai and then just do voiceover on it? You know?
Yeah, you mean like
There's a different audience that goes for some particular
I
things.
know, but
Squid Game, yeah, okay, that happened to be the people were like, yeah, we're down. We're
but
down
look
to
at
be
look
into
at
it.
look at like K dramas. Look at all these stuff. Like the West is finally like embracing this.
Yes, but the popular K dramas that people are embracing are the ones that do not have voiceover stuff.
Yeah.
all
Okay. So then
subtitles.
then don't voiceover.
But how are you going to do that when it comes to Power Rangers? Power Ranger fans are
well, and I agree with Jezzer on
Power
this one
Rangers
actually.
versus Sentai fans, I think, are different.
You don't have to call it. I mean,
You can literally still call it Super Sentai.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of different in that way, and also licensing and how be able to
But
put
look,
it out, right?
what he's saying is why doesn't Toei just make a deal with a distributor
and
and
put
get
it
their
out,
stuff
yeah.
out there? Because I agree. If you look at the way that the West is consuming Eastern media,
Why not?
Eastern entertainment, why not? I mean, it's right there. And matter of fact, even speaking to your point even more, why doesn't Netflix just do it on their own and adapt their own version, or like, you know what I mean, like with their own voiceovers, with their own storyline, but with the same type of thing? I agree.
Amazon did it.
yeah. I mean,
There's
it's
the
everything.
Sentai, the Amazon.
Honestly, this would be even 10 times cheaper than what the current formula.
Let me ask
Yeah.
you another question. And look, if we're talking big picture, like really big picture here, and I don't want to cap this on, well, what if Power Rangers just keeps readapting a Super Sentai? What if they make something completely new? What if they do something in the middle, which is, look, it's Netflix, and if Netflix is smart, and if a marketing person's looking at this and they look at their thing or their views, they're like, well, your toys are mostly being sold to adults, and there's a lot of adults consuming your content. Why don't they make a sequel season to a season that we've already gotten with the current actors now?
I don't know.
Not even Mighty Morphin, but what if they did a sequel season of like right now, like Wild Force? Oh, Wild Force is a little hard. But what if they did like Time Force or sorry, Time Force? What?
Because why is Wild Force hard to do?
No, we're good. We're good.
It's a little difficult. Just probably be a little difficult right now. But why not? Why not something like Time Force or revisiting SPD, seeing like a new group of cadets, or following JJ, which they kind of set up for, and you can kind of tell with that JJ character that they set up for in Ninja Storm or Ninja Steel that was somebody that they wanted to kind of like keep going along their lore with. That's why they set him up in the Boom Studios comic.
Yep.
That's why we got the reference in the Ninja Steel crossover. What if we revisit that time era in SPD?
Wouldn't be bad.
And also another big trend in freaking entertainment is reboots.
Look, Saved by the Bell had one.
Yeah, Saved by the Bell.
Well, not a reboot.
90210. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
continuation.
90210. How I Met Your Mother is getting another reboot, or like a sequel.
How I
Yeah.
Met Your Father. It's a
How I Met Your Father. Freaking Doogie Howser has. It's not necessarily Doogie Howser, but it's pretty much in
It's a
essence the same
sequel.
thing.
Once again, it's a
Yeah.
sequel series.
Yeah.
Like Joe's saying, take something, just something that
yeah.
hey, you remember from this.
To tell you the truth, if I was to do a
Fuller
sequel series,
House. You got.
there you go.
if I was to do a sequel series of Power Rangers, the one, there's two that I would probably focus in on. One would be an SPD follow-up, because there's a lot of things that you can branch out of there. Well, three maybe. A Time Force one would be really cool if you jumped around the different eras of Power Rangers.
It's a given.
But Time Force would make more sense as an animated thing, mainly because you would be able to jump in the eras without having to shoot that live action.
Imagine like a Rick and Morty
But then
type
again,
Time Force show.
See, and that's the thing. That idea is something that fans are already doing, right?
Well,
isn't that like Colin Bass and
yeah, but I'm talking.
like,
see, this is the thing that doesn't work about it though, because you can't jump into the '90s in this modern era.
Exactly.
You can, but you have to have a pretty big budget for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you do this animated, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at What If. It took you through all these different eras. Another one that I would do too, obviously, is Mighty Morphin, but Zeo might be better because all of those actors
They just started putting Zeo on YouTube.
That's true. So I mean, but ultimately, it still goes back to if you're trying to do it and you have budgetary purposes, it's animated.
Now you can do that in live action.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those actors are still here. All those actors, you probably would go
But
back
once
to the
again,
franchise.
you said like, but if, so
Look,
wouldn't
they
you
all
go
have
back
like
to 90s?
Zeo's probably the one sequel series that would make the most sense. Number one is they all still have their Zeo crystals.
Okay.
So have something happen where they get summoned and like, what the fuck is going on? And or you know, maybe somebody like, you know, isn't being a Power Ranger anymore. Maybe Tommy's always been doing this. You have them all in different places. Maybe he's with Kat, so they would get it together with their son. You know, you would have
And then Blake shows up.
Well, you would
No.
I mean, sure, I mean, that's fine. But you would. But honestly, I think it would make more sense to bring David Yost back for this. But like, this is something you can absolutely do. We talk about these reunion series all the time. If they did these Power Rangers sequel series as like just small mini series, it gives you more. It gives you more kind of mileage out of those seasons that you normally wouldn't get.
Yeah.
So would that be? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so it'd be very similar to like the Super Sentai 10 years later, where they just come back for like an hour type thing, and then they basically produce like a small film, which is really kind of popular because it's nice to kind of see. But also, I realized the reason why they've probably not been able to show Super Sentai outside thing is because of the deal that Saban's got. If he's got all the rights to Super Sentai to hold it over in the world, no one's going to do it. But when they split completely, then it'd be like someone else could be like, "Hey, do you want the rights to this?" And they'll go, "Yes, please," and then stick it up somewhere else.
Yep.
You know, I think there's a ton of things that they can be doing with Power Rangers, and they're just barely scratching the surface. I think that if somebody were to sit down and talk to them about marketing and developing and just kind of strategies and different kind of things, I think that there's so much for the fans out there that they can chew on that they can do. But
where's the one place that they're actually still killing it though?
In Power Rangers?
Yeah.
Comics.
I was gonna ask
Comics,
that,
right?
but it's like
Also, I mean, they're toys. They're killing it.
Toys are killing. Speaking of toys, our good buddy Josh Perry, he writes for the Illuminerdi. You know him better as Living Ranger Key on Twitter. He has another video this week. Josh, take it away, buddy.
Hello, Power Rangers Lightning Collection fans. I'm Josh Perry from the Illuminerdi, and I'm here to give you a recap of what happened this past week for the Lightning Collection. Here's a little quickie, Lightning Storm. So we actually had a pretty good amount of figures releasing this year around the world. Some in the US, some in the UK, and some in Singapore once again, which seems to be like the place for Lightning Collection figures to be released these days. First of all, I'm going to go and start in the UK, because they briefly, and not anymore unfortunately, had In Space Silver up in stock on Hasbro Pulse UK. So very similar to how it was over here in the US. It went up for a little bit of, a small window of time, gone. So some of them have already shipped out for them, which is great, but as of right now you can't get it there, and it still has yet to be announced by Hasbro at this time. But what has released over there in the UK that is not released here in the US yet is the Hasbro Pulse conversion of the Pudgy Pig figure. The whole lunchbox style packaging and everything is actually in stock on Hasbro Pulse UK right now and is being shipped out and has already been shipped out. Some people have already received it, so that was really, really quick. But we still don't really know when it's going to come out here just yet in the US. But moving over to the US, we did get to see Wave 10 popping up at numerous different targets and such over the last week. And actually, some of them went up very, very briefly on the Walmart website, but I've yet to see any ship out from there or anything like that. But people have been finding them in Target stores, so might be a good time to look for them. Also at the same time, Versus Packs Wave 2 are fully in stock and are shipping out from Amazon, both 2 packs from the Wave, so that's really, really great. And then we also had another figure released in the US, and that was A Squad Yellow, which has been found in different GameStop stores across the country. So it might be time to start hunting for that if you didn't get it from Big Bad Toy Store or from Dorkside Toys over the last month or two. And then finally from Singapore, we got to see the metallic armors that we first saw back at Hasbro Pulse Fan Fest finally released somewhere in the world, and we've been getting these really nice, in-hand photos of them, and I think they're looking great. I can't wait to get my hands on these whenever Hasbro Pulse ships them out here in the U.S. That's all there really is to talk about in terms of news. If you want to check out more detailed and breakdowns of all these news stories, be sure to check out the full episode of Lightning Storm available on the Toku Topics YouTube channel right now. And also in that episode, I go over numerous different fandom interviews that have been happening for the past week or so, which, people, influencers and such, got to interview the Hasbro team and get to ask them questions about PulseCon. And I want to talk about some of the more important or more meaningful points that I think I had, heard from those different interviews. And I wanted to relay them to you. So that's all I got. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to check out other articles from me over on the Illuminerdi.com. And you can also follow me on Twitter at LivingRangerKey or at LightningFigPR. And this has been a little quickie, Lightning Storm.
Thanks so much for the Lightning Storm this week, Josh. Amazing job. You know what? I love talking about the toys, but we're going to do a new segment this week. Look, what if was a big deal. So it's going to be what if the original 6 Rangers would have stayed together. We're going to break this down. We're going to talk it out. We're going to chime in with you guys on the chat, and we're going to figure this all out. So take it away, Jezzer.
This came from the idea, because with this, we watched the Serena thing. I know that was weird. We watched the Serena thing, and she said that she would have came back if SAG was a thing, and they were going to pay her dues. Breaking it down, we all know the history of it. The original 3 left because they were unable to negotiate their contracts, and they're getting paid $600 a week. That is garbage. With how much money they were making, that is garbage. Honestly. Yeah. If they band together and they renegotiated, I think Saban would have paid them their dues. Not a huge amount, but paid them what they're worth. What if the original 6 stayed? What would the climate of Power Rangers be for that? What would we get the segmented thing? Would they still continue doing the thing that they did with season 2 where they kept the suits and then changed the Zords? Is that what it'd look like? Would the show, honestly, maybe the show wouldn't have gone 30 years. Who knows? What do you guys think the climate of that if the OG6 stayed and nobody left and then they just went the course?
All right, so I've given this a ton of thought.
Okay.
Throughout the course of this week, I've been thinking about this a lot. And I think that no matter any way you were going to slice it or dice it, the 3 that left were always going to leave. It wasn't necessarily about the power. Saban had the power, and obviously he flexed it. The thing is, I think he was willing to let all 6 of them walk.
You think so?
100%. I think that he knew at that point that I can never let this kind of situation happen again. Mm-hmm. And I think that he realized that there was one person that he, for the most part, probably only needed to stay and wanted to stay, and that's probably Jason David Frank. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He knew that I don't know if he said, I don't know.
So if Jason David Frank was in on that and was going to leave too,
I think he would have let him go. And here's the reason why, is because he already did. You can see that he was willing to let him go right after the Green Ranger stuff when Jason David Frank did the Adam Steele whole VR Trooper thing. Yeah. So he was going to let him go. Mm-hmm. I think that he was comfortable with letting all of them go. But let's take it, and I think you got to look at it from a different perspective.
What if?
What if Austin, Tweet, and Walter would have been convinced to stay? That's the perspective you have to look at it on. Okay. Not what if you're convincing Saban to give them fair deals. It's what if they just agreed to do what Saban wanted. Yeah. That show would have looked completely different.
That's exactly it. But the thing is, I'm pulling back a little bit, and I'm like, if they convinced them to stay, if they did, it would have to be for okay, what do you guys want? Okay, let's find that medium. Finding that medium would have possibly been, we're just going to stay here in the U.S., one. We're definitely going to become a SAG show, so we're going to flip. And all these things. If they felt that they needed those Rangers, but that's the problem. We all know that Saban was like, I don't. No. You guys can go, and we also continue the show. But if things changed, in the what if they stayed, you have to go into the why for the what if. Why would they decide, we want to keep them? So that would be the whole thing, where if he realized, shoot, every one of them is
what if,
just as
I'm just saying, what if they didn't come to the realization that they need to renegotiate? What if they just kept the course and,
So are you talking, all right, let's dive into the story, because this is where it does get interesting. So we obviously know that during season 3 of Mighty Morphin, even season 2 a little bit, we had to see some changes because there wasn't enough Zoo Ranger footage out there, for them to keep going. So that's why we had the Die Ranger stuff with their Zords, but we didn't get those suits. The real question is, when would they have made the transition to getting other suits? Because they would have only been able to push that Mighty Morphin motif for so long.
That's true.
Until they
So you're saying the format that they did would stay the same. They would keep it till after Alien
No,
Rangers.
that honestly, that's the biggest question is, would they have, because you have to assume that if they were going to keep changing suits and motifs, it would have been done to sell more toys. I understand that.
Yes.
But that changes the complexion of the whole show.
But in order for them to have been able to change the suits, they needed to push the actors.
Well, this is a show at this point now where you would definitely are banking on your audience growing up with the cast.
Yes.
So, because look, you have to assume they start in high school, right? And let's just assume that they're all going to leave around the same time. Let's just say they stay on to when JDF wants to leave, which would have been about that turbo space transition, right? So let's say they all go up until that point, every single one of them. The thing that would change the most, I think, would have to be the tone of the show. Because you at that point are taking kids that were, let's say target market audience was 10, right? You have to, you're taking them on a journey that's going to last you maybe like
You're
5
saying
or
the
6
tone
years.
after Turbo?
Well, the tone going through Turbo is going to have to change because
all the way to space.
But the tone kind of did change.
So that's a great point. So they already recognized that they were growing up with their audience, and if you could tell that they were building the characters around it. Right. I do find it interesting though, because I feel that like with the creativity that we got in space, having the original Rangers kind of in that. And if they were pitched on this kind of idea of like, hey, you might be going off the air, but this is what we might be doing, I think you would have gotten at least some of them to stay because it was so different.
It was
That's
different,
probably
yeah.
me drinking all this fucking energy drinks.
It definitely was different, and I think that would have been the thing. And if we did keep them, the show definitely, like you said, it would have grown. The writing would have grown, everything as far as what had happened. But, of course, there's the whole concern of aging out. So we finished high school, we've essentially finished their story. So they're going to take their year off, their year abroad. That's going to be space. At the end of Space, season 1, goodbye to everybody.
I don't know. I don't think so.
That's what I think.
I don't think so because I think that you're gonna want to try to carry on with the future. But I do agree that you can't. I mean, you don't have to age out because look, Billy graduated from high school like midway through Zia, right? And we could have continued that story. Now, Billy, I do assume that some of the roles would have been a little bit more defined. Obviously, we have different the real question is, would they have stayed with the same suits?
Yeah.
Because if they would have switched over to like the Alien Rangers at that point, what would they have done?
Mark, what do you think?
I think that if you'd kept the suits, then it would be more. I don't know. I think it'd been a little bit harder because if you tried to I don't know. Obviously, because if the Sentai footage didn't match, I think at some point people would have got bored. I think when you had the suit change in Zeo, it was more kind of this is a refreshing type of show now. So if you just kept Mighty Morphing all the way through, I think you couldn't have sold the toys not unless you added little things like, oh, Jason's now got like dragon bands on his arms.
Well, they did. They did metallic,
now.
Right? You know, the shiny glitter thing. You know.
I mean, that was legitimately to try to sell more toys. But like the thing that has to change though is going to have to be managing the popularity of some of these Rangers. So you have to assume at this point that if they did change suits, at that point, with the way the audience was, would they have shifted JDF and ASJ's roles anyway?
But if they, like I said, if you're changing suits, I'm saying if you're changing suits, the popularity of the actors themselves, the characters themselves, has to transcend that. Exactly. So that way the transition of suits isn't going to matter. Exactly. I mean, freaking Tony Stark changes a suit every freaking Avengers, it doesn't matter. You know,
it's an upgrade. It's an upgrade.
Yeah,
that's all
it's the character that has to grow versus the suit that has to. The suit in the show that has to.
And also, you brought up a really good point, though. Sorry to cut you off, but because space is where we get the end of the Zordon era. I think it would have also made more sense, just storyline wise, if Zordon was like taken out by one of those original 6. Because at that point, they have the connection to Zordon and that bond to him. It would probably even make more sense if it was Tommy, because he was the one that infiltrated Zordon to begin with.
Yeah.
And then it was like a gray hair. Or
he was playing the long game the whole time.
No, it could have been one of those where it was like, it could have been one of those where it was like Zordon says, so the prophecy's fulfilled, and you're like, wait, what? And then he kills him, and then you're like, We have to fill that in now. You have to tell me, what do you mean the prophecy is fulfilled? And you'll find out.
But then
Okay, so how many? Okay, let me ask you this. Let ask you guys this: how many years does the show go if they keep the original? Like, how long does the show go? Does it go 30 years?
I think so.
You think it goes 30 years?
Well, I think it not only does it go 30 years, it's a stronger brand. But here's the thing. Now that we're even talking about this, it makes more sense. So if you look at the powers and the powers that they had, their next transition would have been space anyway.
Yeah.
That would have been literally the next frontier. They were all out of high school at that point. Billy's like a goddamn scientist. Like, they would have went to space. And I think that they would have culminated their season with Power Rangers in space. And Lost Galaxy would have been the natural transition next with the whole new generation. And I do think we would have gotten an epic team up. But it would have been Lost Galaxy. You know, at that point, it would have been something completely different, I think.
Hold on.
Ooh.
So Mark, for you, here we go. We're saying that they're staying on the show. How do you think it would have turned out, in your opinion?
I think it would work out if the characters grew a lot more. I feel like if you had, say, Jason stay the exact same way all the time, then it would just get kind of boring. Like when you just said about, say, Tommy taking out Zordon, I would love for like the next season to be Tommy is like constantly going, oh God, I killed Zordon. So then it shows that his character can be affected because you didn't really see much character growth all the way through seasons 1 to 3. And then obviously Zeo, but you kind of more like you accepted it. So I'd want more from the characters. Would it have been great? I think it would have got boring after a while, where you would have had people go, oh, he's playing the same role. Yeah, I'm bored of that now. So I think the writing would have to be spot on. I think everything would move on.
Go ahead, Mark.
Oh no, I think I was just going to end off with you'd have to have that growth. Otherwise, you've got the same characters that would be boring all the same time. We'd be like, oh, did Jason learn that lesson? Well, he learned it in season 1. Oh, he's kind of not grasped that just yet. I think that would be the main problem. It's just writing. I think you'd have to keep it going.
I think that two things happen, though. If they would have continued on with the Mighty Morphin 6, we'll call them, and going forward and progressing their storylines, Zeo was a stronger written season than the previous 3 seasons.
Yes.
So we knew that we started getting character development.
Yep.
So I wonder where those characters could have gone. The other interesting side of this coin is, if you remember in Zeo, we also got other students that were involved at the school.
Yeah.
So that's maybe where you could have dangled your... And to tell you the truth, I think something they could have done too in Zeo is introduce kids from Stone Canyon and kind of have like an almost like Valley Bayside rivalry thing.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of things they could do to build out the show. And honestly, having those there's auxiliary cast members a part of the show would dangle that carrot in front of the actors, being like, if you don't stay on the show, there is like
and it would give each character, each of the 6 character development, because
get them into relationships.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
kids at school.
We don't have to have Tommy and Kim together the whole time. Like, there could be different things going on. There could be this ongoing rivalry between Jason and Tommy. Like every season, they're trading off who the leader is. Some like kind of like Leo and Raph, where they're all brothers constantly going.
Ideally, Power Rangers should be Degrassi mixed with superheroes.
Wow, Degrassi.
Well, I mean, look, it's a show that kind of grows generationally, depending on what the cast is, but you infuse it with that little bit of superheroes.
And everything is canon.
Everything's canon, and I think that you would be able to work it out. I mean, tell you the truth, if the original 6 were to get to space, at that point you would have been able to say to them, okay, who wants out of the show at this point? Yeah. Because you don't have to carry on and go to space, because some of them would have stayed.
They would stay on Earth.
You know what I mean? On Earth. So then at that point, you have more to play with.
And one beneficial thing about this whole situation is we don't have to get Justin.
You're a Justin
Get rid
guy?
of him.
Are you a Justin fan? Is that why?
I'm a Blake fan.
Yeah, we wouldn't.
Hey, you know what? Hate me if you want. I just went ahead and woke up and chose violence.
Hey, look, I listen. I love the OG6. The only like downfall of like going this path is we wouldn't have Johnny Young Bosch. That's it.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah. I would be fine not having Justin.
Yeah,
but
Johnny Young Bosch.
I need Johnny Young Bosch, man.
I mean, that's one of those things though. But I do think that if that original 6 were to have stayed together, that cast would have been just as iconic as a 90210 or a Saved by the Bell.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, matter of fact, I mean, even now, I would venture to say that, like, comparably, like, it's still... But listen, if you would have had them going on for seasons upon seasons upon seasons, that would have been one of these shows we talk about of like, oh, these classic casts. This is the Power Rangers.
Well,
like,
so what we need to do is just have Jimmy Fallon bring everybody back.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon bring everybody
I mean,
back.
if
Like,
you're gonna
listen,
have anybody bring
if you bring if you bring the 5 people back, people that haven't been following Power Rangers for 30 years, I'd be like, oh shit, they brought the Power Rangers back. It's like they've been around for 30 years. No one knows. Like, dude, nobody knows.
nobody
Like
knows.
outside of the fandom, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Like if you put 5 of them, on Jimmy Fallon's like a couch, that'd be like viral. Like they'd go viral. Like
it would put their names back.
it put the names back. It could reinvigorate. Like it could bring back the fandom.
It could truly reinvigorate at least people looking into that, and it could work as a catapult idea for
because outside,
doing an anthology.
Look what Say by the Bell and Peacock.
Exactly.
That's exactly.
Outside the fandom, people think Power Rangers is gone. It's done.
Yeah.
They don't know that's still going on. Like
Exactly.
shit.
It's very true.
I think that it's a very different show if those original 6 stay.
Oh, we got a super chat. David! He says,
David!
if the cast lasted several suits, how would Forever Red and other matchups be affected?
I don't think there would be a Forever
I
Red.
don't think.
It
was like there wouldn't need to be.
There wouldn't be a Forever Red at that point. But if
You're balancing it. You're like, oh, you give up that Forever Red thing, but you get like epic storylines with the original timeline.
I think you still do have a Forever Red because at this point we're assuming that original cast would have 10 years, not all of them would have stuck around.
No.
So I think mainly that 10-year anniversary wouldn't be Forever Red. It would be reuniting that original cast again. And you do that every 10 years. You know what I mean?
Like honestly, like we keep going back to Saved by the Bell. Other reboots and stuff, like they kind of like drop the ball.
Punky Brewster's another one that got it.
But Saved by the Bell really did they did it justice. Like everybody has moved on to a certain point in their lives where it made sense. I think that's the thing that makes sense. All the other reboot shows, like, would they really be doing that? I mean, like, freaking go back to Luke Skywalker and freaking Ryan Johnson's Luke Skywalker. Why is Luke Skywalker doing that? Like,
Well, I mean,
so you're telling me
you're telling
me they did Zach Morris better than they did Luke Skywalker? What's going on here?
I like where they. Yeah, I'm down with where Luke was. But with Power Rangers, I think that like there's so many things you could have done. Because here's the thing: if they would have went to space, you'd have had a couple of them stay back. One of them, you have to assume, would have like went back and taught it either the Ernie's juice bar, taking
who stays back, who stays back, Tommy or Jason?
Well, you have to assume that they. I don't know. Honestly, I think Kimberly stays back because she wants to concentrate on going to the Olympics and whatever else.
Billy goes automatically.
I think Billy goes with them 100% because you need to get Billy back into the fold, and he's the only one that would be able to like figure out machines, talk to aliens and shit like that. Right?
Walter goes out of he loves space cases. But,
I think Walter would go. I actually think all of them would go with the exception of Kimberly.
Oh. Honestly, because Zach is like
maybe even Trini, because if Trini stays back and she becomes like like a teacher at Angel Grove High, it's a different story. But I do think for the most part, like maybe she does go, and then maybe that's where they meet another. I
say Trini would go because 1, Trini is the best fighter. 2, she is a natural born leader, and even if she doesn't have to sit in front and let everyone know she's the leader, she can lead from being right back there. She's like she could be a consigliere, I think we should probably do this, and they're like, you're right, all right, blah blah.
But a lot of things change too because you have to assume they're both like this cast is in the original movie that comes out.
Yep.
And this cast is also in the sequel movie, so that's a whole other thing too. Would that have original movie been bigger at this point with the original cast?
Yes.
And you would assume that there was always going to be a sequel movie like that. I think you're looking at a bigger franchise at this point.
I think so because once again, with them getting older, the show has to age as well.
Yeah.
Which means the writing.
I wouldn't expect all of them to stay 30 years. No.
No. But the films would be different because by the time the film comes out, this cast has been together for so long that it's like, all right, we're going to go ahead and make something that has to be larger than the show.
Well, yeah.
And it also has to show that we have grown as characters, as actors, as writers, and everything has to be bigger. So
and you have to assume too, because like some of them may have been getting other calls to do other shows at this point. Like Amy Jo Johnson, like legitimately went to Felicity, and like was a pretty big show. So like you would have assumed that she would have used Power Rangers as a stepping stone for other things. So she probably would have left. Mm-hmm. Twee ended up in The Crow.
Yep.
Started doing small films. So you have to assume that maybe she would have double dabbed in both for a while. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing: Saban at that point would have had to let his guard down and let them go out there and do other things. So there's a give and take to that relationship that had to have happened. You have to assume that JDF was getting more requests. He was doing Family Matters, Sweet Valley High, but he was also staying on Power Rangers.
That's
so
right.
maybe if they would have been united and said, you know what, we all want to do outside stuff like this, it probably would have changed things a little bit. But then at that point, like, it's such a fascinating idea to think about.
Yeah,
just
it's
so
honestly-
many different paths. You can
It's
go down.
honestly,
Genius one.
and then you also have to take into account like the climate of Hollywood at that time. Like we've seen time and time again that shows mishandling their young actors or them getting introduced to like drugs and stuff like that. The freaking landscape of Hollywood was different than it is now. Like there was. Kids weren't being protected at no point in time. I mean, Corey Feldman has had freaking lots of interviews on it. Who knows? They might have just been, cut out of the show due to personal reasons. But I'm just saying, what is the end game? What does the show look like if this was the course?
30 years. You mean if that would have happened for 30 years?
Yeah.
I think that the brand is one of the top brands in the world.
Still, yeah.
I mean,
it would.
especially for kids, but not just for kids, but just for that sci-fi genre.
Yeah.
And I think right by now we'd be on our third or possibly fourth iteration of the team.
But then you have to think too, like, what would that cast have carried over with Disney? 'Cause does all that stuff still happen?
Yeah. No, it wouldn't have happened.
It probably wouldn't even
It
have sold.
wouldn't have happened. If anything, Fox.
No, it would have sold because I think
so?
at that point, like maybe Saban wanted out of it and wanted to maintain things. But I think Disney probably at that point would have capitalized on it because it was like, we bought a brand. Like we bought these characters that everybody knows and is beloved.
Like how when we bought Marvel, we bought something that was functional.
Right. So
I mean, something that was already there.
I think at that point, if you're thinking about it, and then you got to think, was that a test, or if that would have been successful, would Disney have just went all in with Power Rangers and maybe doesn't even sell it back to Saban, and then Hasbro never gets their hands on it? There's like that timeline where the original 6 stayed is a fascinating.
Imagine if we could go back in time, go talk to ASJ
And just
training,
arrange things.
and we go to Walter's like, "Hey, we've seen the future."
So look, maybe what we do is every episode we kind of talk about some of these what ifs, because I like these what if scenarios of Power Rangers. They're a lot of fun. We can put some graphics together and really think these out. But look, guys, thank you so much for joining us this Saturday. I think it is time for us to wrap up.
Definitely.
You guys have been enjoyable and great. Any final thoughts, Heirloom?
We've also
Heirloom?
been
You're
great.
not Heirloom?
No, I'm just saying we've also been great. just remember that we've also been great.
I reckon that if it got to the Disney era, I reckon you'd see spin-offs. It's like maybe a bit like the Arrowverse in some sort of way, where you bring them all together. And then it would be kind of like, oh my god, like you're another ranger. We didn't know there were other ones. Our suits are spot on.
Yes.
And then you'd get kind of like maybe spin-offs to kind of test the waters. Like, what happens if we did Zeo coming up? Like, did you know there was a Zeo crystal? No, I did not, because we have not found this yet. And then they carry on and on and on. I reckon that you would have seen a huge thing. And yeah, that's
Nice.
I've got one more thought. Jumping way back one is, how we were talking about how the brand's not being done the same.
Yeah.
Why have they always used the Red Ranger for MMPR? It's always that, where if kids just started watching it when they were like 4 or 5, Samurai would have been the new one. So why didn't they update the Red Ranger? They honestly knew what they want, and they want to kick into that nostalgia so much.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
They knew the moment. They knew the moment for them as far as their big pop. They knew what sold. They knew what put the name in people's mouths. It's just like Transformers. If you're looking for Transformers, a logo is once again what's his name's Optimus Prime's head. Why not Rodimus Prime? Why not blah blah blah?
Fuck Rodimus Prime.
I'm just saying. But it's like, that's how it is. So
Before
like
we
do
go,
the
we
same
do
way.
have a super chat, Jezzer.
Do a what if hexagon.
Ooh, super chat is it?
It is Thanura Ravindra. He says, "Do what if hexagon happened."
Coming soon.
Coming soon. Actually, that's gonna be a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. That's
I'm gonna
what
write some up.
that's like one we have to hype up, and yeah, that's a good
I'm gonna
one.
write some stuff up.
I already.
We're gonna be doing this a lot differently. This one's gonna be a full-on breakdown.
I already have one for next week.
Okay.
Wait, why don't you tease it?
Okay. Or just tell them what it is.
Tell them what it is. Get the hype train going.
What if the first movie was canon? Same universe.
Okay.
Oh,
That's a great. I love that.
Okay.
I love that.
Okay.
What if? All right. So here's the deal.
So you pretty much were saying what the movie would be different. Like what is
So
the
wait,
movie?
the movie's still the exact same. It's just the fallout is different.
Exactly the same. Yeah.
Okay. So what happens
work with
after
that.
the movie?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we essentially doing fantasy booking and let the fans pick.
Exactly.
Okay. So everybody come up with your pitch for what would have happened if the movie was canon.
Yeah.
What would have happened after?
Yep.
Ooh.
Same cast though, like right? Still same cast.
You're talking about Rocky and all them.
Rocky, Adam, Aisha.
Yeah,
Okay.
same cast. So same story. Because we obviously know they had parallel stories for that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what is the story? What's going on here? You know.
All right, let me ask you a question then, just so we're all on the same page here. Are we allowed to use the movie suits in our television? Like what the fallout of what happens after?
Why not?
Do we have to go back to what the show was?
I mean, if you're gonna, you could use the movie suits, but the way that for me that it makes sense is you don't see the movie suits until they get that legendary power, right?
No, of course. So we're using the canon.
We're using the canon suits.
We're using the canon, we're using the movie as canon. The fallout is the same.
Yeah.
But we can still use the suits from the movie in our.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Interesting. All right. So Daniel, where can everyone find you on social media?
Oh, well, okay. You can find me on Instagram at Battlestar Galactica, or you can find my shortened version on Twitter at BS Galactica.
Mark?
You can find me everywhere bar Twitter as Airlim, but on Twitter you can find me as Mainstream Live.
You can find me everywhere as Jezer Zeus. Joe?
You can find me on all social media. You can find me on all social media at Joe Illuminerdi. You can also find me at The Illuminerdi every single week. We're putting out great articles. Go check them out. TheIlluminerdi.com, breaking the latest news in geek entertainment. But thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday, this beautiful, hot Saturday here in Los Angeles. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button to stay up to date with everything trending
In geek pop culture.